Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, I want to talk to you a little bit about home efficiencies. Now, I don't want to scold anybody, so don't take me the wrong way, but I do talk to a lot of people that talk about the improvements that they do to their home. I look at all these improvements and think, that doesn't really benefit you much other than it's pretty. Now, I like the pretty factor to a house. You know, my house personally, I want it to look nice on the outside. I want it to look nice on the inside. I want nice cabinets and a nice kitchen. I want hardwood floors and carpets and all these things. And I have made improvements to my house. But one of the first thing that I did when we bought this house is I went through and looked at the utilities, because the utilities are something that you can make improvements to that are actually going to benefit you. It's not just a pretty factor. You know, you can look at the different things in your home that hurt or help your utility bill. Because one way that I look at it as is we can have all these pretty things in the house that we want to have, but if we cannot afford the utility bills to be able to live there, then that pretty factor didn't do you any good. So I tell everybody, look at the utilities of the house first. There's a lot of different things that you can look at to help improve your utility and your efficiency factor. And at that point, those are improvements that will benefit you in the long run. And then you can do any pretty factor that you want to do in your house. So number one thing that I have to look at is the insulation value in your home. Now, there's insulation in your walls, there's insulation in your ceiling. In some cases, in some areas, there's insulation in the crawl space or in the basement. It just depends on your area. Now, the other thing is, as far as the type of insulation and the R value that you need, I'm not going to get too far into specifics with the R value that you need because it's going to depend on your region. I have people that watch these videos all over the place. A lot of them aren't even in the States. You know, just here in America, you know, up in Northern America, up high in Canada, you know, their region for their R value for their region is going to be a lot different than down in the southern states. So, you know, and then there's that span in between. There's a lot of different factors that go into that. So I'm not going to go real specific into what level of R value you actually need, but insulation is a big one. You know, the insulation in your walls, if you're like most of us out there, you buy an existing home, there's not much you can do with the walls themselves. Unless you're doing a remodel or you happen to be building a new home, something like that. If you're building a new home, you better be paying attention to what your insulation values are. But if you are remodeling and you have the chance where you're re-drywalling or something like that, hey, that's the time to make the upgrades. If you're doing the outside of the house, let's say you're re-siding it or something along those lines, there's not a lot you can do, but there is some different insulation boards you can use, as well as wrapping it. If the house maybe wasn't wrapped before, there's a lot of sealing you can do, things like that. But you know, the walls are fairly stuck the way they are in most cases. The attic, that is someplace you can make big improvements on. You know, the attic itself needs to be insulated. If you're a homeowner out there and you don't quite follow what I'm saying, is think about it in the wintertime when it's cold outside and you've got your heat on and all that hot air rises. Everybody knows that heat goes up. That hot air goes up and it tries to get through your ceiling and basically out away from the house. And if you don't know, drywall actually serves pretty much no R value. There's a little bit there. If you look up the specs and different things like that, you can Google that information, but the R value is not very much whatsoever. So that heat is transferring through that drywall and out into your attic. Now, we don't want to heat the attics. There's no point in it. Most of us don't live in the attics. Now, before everybody freaks out, yes, I know there's homes that have attics that have livable space and all that kind of stuff, but I look at that as a conditioned space, not a true attic space. Either way, the attic itself needs to be insulated well. Now, the other thing is the type of insulation that you put up there. Now, I am probably going to have a lot of people jump up and down and tell me all kinds of things about the different preferences in insulation. I have mine, you have yours, whatever. The rest of you are out there looking for ideas and opinions. Now, for me, fiberglass doesn't belong in a house, period. Now, there's all kinds of fiberglass guys that are going to freak out and say, well, we've been putting rolled bat in insulation in attics for years and years and it does just fine. You're right. It does work, kind of. And the other factor is all that fiberglass that's moving around in the house. I don't want to breathe it. I don't want it around. It's nasty. It's horrible, horrible stuff. I wouldn't put fiberglass in anything. That's why in some areas they've actually outlawed fiberglass in different building materials and things like that. I'm not the only one that doesn't like fiberglass. So That being said, there are a couple different types you can do. Traditionally, or I guess a long time ago, everybody did use the rolled bat insulation. Now, for the fiberglass guys out there, yes, they have made improvements on the fiberglass insulation. There is actually some really nice bat insulation out there. Personally, I still won't use it, but it is what it is. You cannot seal up all around all those sides and keep that air from moving around those bats. That's just me. I don't believe in it. Blown in is absolutely hands down the way to go in an attic. Now, there are different types of blown in. They have blown in fiberglass. Again, I don't believe in fiberglass whatsoever. They also have, in our area, we have new wool. It's basically like a cotton kind of blown in insulation. Not a big fan of it because you have to go several feet deep in the attic, and that's in our area. In more northern areas, you got to go even deeper, but you have to go really deep with that stuff to be able to actually get the R values that you're supposed to have in the most basic of areas. And then you have blown in cellulose. Blown in cellulose, I am a large fan of. The people that do complain about blown in cellulose are typically the ones that have had to crawl in it a lot and move it around, and they say it's dusty, it's dirty, and all that kind of stuff. Well, you know what? I'm a heat and air guy, and yes, I've crawled through plenty of blown in cellulose insulation. It is dirty, it is dusty, and sometimes can be a pain, but you cannot beat the R value that it provides with the thickness that you can go within your region. So the blown in cellulose, hands down, is my option, or my preferred option for in an attic. Because the other thing is, if you talk to a contractor and make sure they check the specs of the house for the weight loads and everything else, if you do have bat insulation in there already, 9 times out of 10, you can blow cellulose over the top of that and improve your insulation value. That actually doesn't cost that much. So it's one of those improvements that you can do that's not horribly expensive, but the gains are unmeasurable sometimes, because you can prevent that heat from going through the ceiling. It shows on your utility bill. And with those years that we have really, really cold winters, or maybe you're in an area that always has really, really cold winters, you're going to benefit from it. So insulation is hands down my number one recommendation for any kind of improvement in the house to improve your efficiencies. Number 2, we have windows and doors. Now, most people out there, most homeowners, if you've been around for a little while, you know that you have to have decent doors and windows in your house. If you do have leaky windows in your house, you know it. It's not a mystery. It's not a surprise. I've seen houses out there that you can feel the draft. I've seen houses that will blow the curtains away from the window when it gets windy enough in the wintertime. You know, around here, our winters vary, but the wind starts blowing and it blows strong. Now, if you've got that day that is, let's say, 10, 15 degrees or even less outside, and the wind's blowing 30, 40 mile an hour, and you've got some big gusts that kick in, you can feel that air coming around those windows. That needs to be fixed. Most cases, replacement windows is the right way to go. You know, there's people that will take the trim off and try to spray around them and all kinds of things. That works. That helps. If that's what your budget provides right now, go for it. Do it. It will be beneficial. Now, the other side is, if you're looking for the best repair you can get, it would usually be put new windows in. They make all kinds of replacement windows out there. It's not quite as expensive as what a lot of people think out there. Now, every contractor is going to be different. Every place is going to be different. I don't sell windows. I don't install windows, anything like that. So don't ask me. I get all kinds of questions on here. I love the questions, but I'm telling you now, I don't know how much windows should cost in your area. I have no idea. But windows are going to help. You know, we have all kinds of double, and they're even doing some triple pane windows out there with low E coating and all this kind of stuff, to try to keep the heat from the summer out and the heat in the winter inside your house, rather than going outside and bringing that cold air in. So, you know, windows make a huge difference. Doors themselves, so many people forget about the doors, that you go in and out of it every day, but you forget what kind of door it is. I mean, by a show of hands right now, how many people can think about and picture what their front door looks like? Yeah. Can anybody picture it perfectly? Or what the gaskets, more importantly, what the gaskets or seals on that door look like? No. We go in and out of them every day, but nobody ever pays attention to it. But if there's a draft coming around that door, under that door, anything like that, it needs to be corrected. A lot of cases, it means putting a new door in. Other cases, sometimes it can mean you just have to put new gaskets or seals around it, something like that. If you don't want to do it yourself, there's all kinds of contractors out there that do that kind of thing. It's very inexpensive, and it provides so much better efficiency from that door itself that it can potentially show on your utility bill. So either replacing the door or replacing the seals, it would hands down be number two top thing to do. So that brings me to number three. Number three is the actual HVAC equipment to the house. This is more important than what a lot of people understand. I talk to so many people and they have no idea how old their system is, how efficient their system is, or really what it does. I've met a lot of people who don't even know where it's at in the house. Now, that's fine if you don't, but I highly recommend you find a contractor that can show it to you and explain it to you. That way you know what you have. Because there's not many people out there that just jump up and down and say, hey, I want to buy a new furnace today. Nobody wakes up, gets out of bed and says, you know what? I'm going to buy a new furnace and air today. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to have to do that. People want to buy new vehicles like cars, trucks, things like that. There's sex appeal to that. There is no sex appeal to heating and air. It's just what it is. It's the industry that we're in. Nobody wants to buy that nice new furnace and air conditioner. Have any of you ever sat back and thought about that? Highly doubt it. Now, your equipment itself, you need to know how old it is, because for one, we run into reliability issues. And I've got a bunch of other videos out there about that, about when it's time to replace, when it's time to upgrade, and all those kind of things due to reliability factors. But efficiency is one of those things I talk about too, but that's what I want to talk about mainly today, is the efficiency of that equipment. If that furnace, if you have a gas furnace in your house and that thing is 30, 40 years old, I promise you, I don't care if you tell me that furnace has treated you right and it does just fine, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure that it has. I promise you, a 40-year-old furnace is not efficient in today's standards. Not in comparison to the equipment that we have now, or even compared to equipment we had 20 years ago. The equipment is not efficient if that's old. If that furnace has a tag on the front of it that says Singer or Williamson or one of those, you know what? They haven't made those since the mid 80s at the latest. It's time for a new one. They were not made to be efficient. A lot of those natural draft furnaces out there were 50 to 60% efficient. They didn't even hit that 70 range on a lot of them. So at that point, every dollar you feed that furnace, if it's a 60% efficient furnace, if you feed it $1, it's giving you 60 cents worth of heat back. That means 40 cents of every dollar is just being thrown away. It's flying up that flue pipe and it's gone. So efficiency with the equipment is a huge one, because the more efficient we can make that system, the more efficient we can make the house as a whole. And now all of a sudden it really starts reflecting on our utility bills. Air conditioners are no different. If that beat up old air conditioner out there was a 8 or 10 SEER air conditioner, we're working with 15s, 16s, a lot of 18s and 20s SEER air conditioners out there now. There's some out there, some of these new variable ones, that I don't feel they're actually even being rated on the right scale. I think they're much higher than what they're being listed as, just because of the type of system that it is. And then so that's the equipment itself. You also have the ductwork that goes to that. If you have inefficient ductwork out there that is not producing or not allowing those BTUs that are being produced to get out to the home where you need them, it's hurting you. So why not look at that as one of your efficiency factors? But that is one of those things that I do have other videos out there about what all is involved in the HVAC system itself and where you're looking at, what the pieces are that you're looking at. It's not just the furnace, it's not just the air conditioner. You got the ductwork and everything else that's involved with that. So we need to make sure these systems are as efficient as possible. I'm not trying to sell you a new system. I'm not a salesman. I get all kinds of comments on here. It's like, well, just another salesman trying to sell a furnace. Hate to break it to you, buddy. I ain't a furnace salesman. I got a troll that follows my channel pretty often, and he's pretty good at being a keyboard warrior and loves to type all kinds of comments on there about, yeah, this salesman doesn't know anything. He's just trying to sell you a new furnace. Guess what? I don't sell furnaces. I fix furnaces. I actually can make more money by fixing those old broken ones, or from that guy that keeps doing it himself and keeps tearing it up, I can come back and fix it when he does it wrong. So, sorry, that's my side note. I love the trolls that love to keyboard warrior on here. So if you are one of those, let me know. I'll go ahead and spotlight you in a video if you like. So that equipment needs to be just as efficient as the rest of the house. We've talked about the house itself, getting the better insulation, better windows and doors, better equipment, all that kind of stuff. That all needs to be done, but that's all as a whole. You have to look at the whole thing as an envelope, and every part of it has to be taken care of. And at that point, once that's done, most of those repairs can last quite a few years, And at that point, you've got time to start doing some of those pretty upgrades that you want, because the pretty factor does count. It does matter in a home. I want the house to look nice. I want to have the nice features and all that kind of stuff. But the first thing I'm going to do is look at the utilities of the home and make sure that it's saving me money on my utility bill and it's there for the long run. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, just let me know. Hit me up in the comments. If you would do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I also want to say thank you to all the current subscribers out there. Go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and like the video. And thank you and God bless.